All right, good afternoon, folks. Apologize to everybody that this meeting is so late, but let's get started. Good afternoon, members of the public. This is the regular meeting of the Planning and Land Use Committee. Mr. Mejia, if you call the roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Blumenfield.
Present.
Ms. Hutt.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Nassarian.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, absent. And Ms. Rahman, absent. 3 members and a quorum, sir.
Okay. This meeting is very late, and I want to make sure that everything that requires a fair hearing gets a fair hearing, and there are some things that are time limited, which is why we are meeting. Otherwise, I would cancel this meeting. I'm going to urge us to move as quick as we can, both because of the late hour and also because there are protesters that have closed the 101 and are moving up in this direction, and it's real possibility at some point we won't be able to drive out of this building. So as a consequence, the faster we get out, the better chance we have of actually getting out of the building. So that being said, and I say that for the members, and I also say that for the members of the public who've come, I'm not going to cut anybody short. Everybody's entitled to a period of time. But if you're saying the same thing as a lot of other folks, for the sake of all of us, just say ditto, I'm with them, or whatever you feel is appropriate. But I put that out there. This affects all of us who are here. So we're going to take public comment, and I'm going to try to take as many items on consent as folks are willing to do. We'll take public comment, and let's start by reading the rules for public comment into the record as quick as
Yes,
we can.
sir. Appellants and other representatives and applicants and other representatives will be allowed to speak for a total of 3 minutes per side unless otherwise noted by the chair. Members of the public wishing to speak on one agenda item only shall have an opportunity to speak for 1 minute. Appellants and applicants will be given an opportunity to speak when their item is called. Each appellant and applicant has a total of 3 minutes to speak. An appellant can choose to have a single representative speak on his or her behalf or divide the 3 minutes among his or her team. Anyone else, including an attorney or project manager wishing to speak on an appellant's behalf who does not do so during this 3-minute period may offer a minute of public comment whenever the committee chairperson opens the public comment period for the item. Therefore, we expect that appellants and applicants have their respective teams assembled and ready to present at the appropriate times today. Members of the public wishing to speak on more than one item shall state that and shall be allowed to speak for a total of 2 minutes. Failure to submit public comment in a timely manner before the comment period for the item ends results in forfeiture of the opportunity to participate in public comment for the item. As stated by the chair, general public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. Madam City Attorney, please provide additional guidance on public comment.
When speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. If you're not speaking on topic, or if we cannot tell whether you are speaking on an agenda item, you'll get 1 brief warning from the city attorney. If you do not immediately get clearly on topic, or if you stray off topic, you will forfeit the rest of your time and we will move on to the next speaker. We will inform you when your time is up.
Okay. And before we begin public comment, I'm going to recommend the following actions after public comment. That we're going to continue item 1 to August 12th. We're continuing this item because the property owner and the representative have indicated they're out of the country. However, because the recommended action puts limits on the operation of their business, this is the only continuance we will entertain at their request. And the August 12th hearing date will stick. And then for items 2 through 8, 13, and 14, I'm going to recommend that we take those on consent. And for item 2, to approve the zone and height district change draft ordinance project findings and the environmental clearance, a categorical exemption from CEQA, Class 1 categorical exemption CEQA guidelines, and environmental findings as recommended in the Planning Commission report dated May 5th, 2025. For item 3, it's to approve the inclusion of the Dewberry located at 458 South Catalina Street and 3471 West 5th Street in the city's list of historic cultural monuments. For item 4, to approve the city attorney prepared ordinance project findings and environmental findings contained in its report dated November 1st, 2022. For item 5, adopt recommendations in the confidential city attorney report dated May 21st, 2025. For item 6, adopt recommendations in the city administrative officer report dated June 3rd, 2025. Note and file May 19th, 2025 planning department report. For item 7, adopt recommendations in the city attorney report dated June 4th, 2025. Adopt draft ordinance rescinding ordinance number 186025. For item 13, adopt recommendations in Planning Department report dated June 6, 2025, and request the city attorney to prepare and present for council consideration 2 draft ordinances to amend Chapter 1, Sections 12.80 and 12.81, and Chapter 1A, Sections 1.6.2 and 1.6.3 of the LAMC to make technical modifications to emergency shelter provisions. For item 14, fine project was assessed in the downtown community plan, update EIR and the housing element EIR and addendums 1 and 2, adopt correction resolution attached to Planning Department communications dated June 4, 2025, including attachment 1 and exhibits A through E. Colleagues, are any of those items you wish to call special? Seeing none. Okay.
Chair, sorry,
Yeah.
you wanted to add 8?
8, yes.
You didn't read that item.
Okay, so 8 to adopt the recommendations in 8. On consent, 8's a big item, a lot of housing, a lot of units. Normally, we talk about that a little bit more. I don't think it's controversial for this group, but it is a big item to note. That being said, okay, so we're going to, we've read those into the record. We're going to move to public comment. Again, if you've heard that your item is going to be on consent and you are here to speak in favor of it, you're welcome to, but we have a greater chance of getting out of this building if you just say, hey, that's great, it's on consent. So, first we'll hear from, if anybody's here for 3 or more items, and I don't see the usual gadflies here who just like to hear their own voice, but if you are here and I'm missing you and you just want to talk on a bunch of items, come on up right now. Okay, that public comment on 3 or more items is closed. Now, let's go to items 2 through, the items that I was going to take on consent, 2 through 8, 13, and 14. Is anyone here who wishes to speak to those items? Please come forward, and you will be given a chance to speak to 1 minute per item, up to 2 minutes total. Okay, seeing nobody here to speak on those items, let's bring items 2 through 8, 13, and 14, and bring them for a vote, as described earlier.
Yes, I'll call the roll, Mr. Blumenfield, for items, as you stated, for items 2 through 8, 13, and 14. Mr. Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Ms. Hutt.
Aye.
Mr. Nassarian. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
And Ms. Rahman, absent. So that's 4 ayes and approved, sir.
Okay, those items are approved. Okay, now we'll move to item 9. Would you please read item 9 into the record?
Sure. 1 second. Yes, item 9, Mr. Blumenfield, contains the housing element EIR, and this is an appeal of a City Planning Commission action. It contains 2 appeals challenging the approval of a vesting tract map to subdivide 2 lots into 12 small lots, properties located in CD 10.
Okay, so we'll have the planning department do a very quick report, and then we'll, the parties, the appellants, and if there are also comments from the council member, then we'll move to members of the public, and then any additional comments or questions. So planning department for a quick report.
All right. Good afternoon, Plum Committee. My name is David Moon, Planning Assistant with City Planning. On November 5th, 2024, the second level appeals for vesting tentative tract map number 84089SL-HCA was presented to the Plum Committee following the City Planning Commission's decision to deny the first level of appeals in August 2024. At this meeting, the Plum Committee voted to uphold the CEQA appeal and remand the appeals back to CPC. Flash forward to April 24th of this year, the appeals were heard again by the City Planning Commission, in which they voted to deny the appeals. In addition, CPC determined that the project is within the scope of the 2021 through 2029 Housing Element Environmental Impact Report as the project's CEQA clearance while adopting a mitigation monitoring program. Following CPC's decision, 2 appeals were filed, which brings us here today. The appellants have each submitted a justification for their appeals. Many of these appeal points were presented and discussed at the City Planning Commission meeting. After reviewing the appeal points submitted by the appellants, planning staff recommends that the vesting tentative tract map appeals be denied. Therefore, staff recommends the Plum Committee to deny the appeals. Additional details related to the appeal points were addressed in the staff letter dated June 4th, 2025 that was submitted to the record. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. Are there representatives from the appellants who wish to speak? Appellants? Okay. The applicants? Keep in mind, there's nobody from the appellants, so you can be quick. You have 3 minutes, but you don't need to use them.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much, council members, for being here. I appreciate the fact that this has been a long day. So I'll try to go through this as quickly as possible. So again, this project is 2 single-family homes being replaced with 12 small-lot homes in what is a TCAC highest opportunity area. So these are the parts of the city where we want to be building housing, where there's good access to education and jobs and transit. This today is the project's 5th hearing. So with the Housing Crisis Act, today is the end of the road for the project. It was after the previous Plum hearing that the CD10 office expressed some concerns about the project and in a letter. And in response to those concerns, we worked with the planning department to go through the housing element checklist, which is a higher level of CEQA review than the Class 32 exemption, which was previously filed. So some of the things that were involved in that housing element checklist included additional noise mitigation measures for construction, additional consultation with LADOT, confirming there would not be additional traffic impacts related to CEQA, paleontological and archaeological monitoring during the excavation process, and additional consultation with BOE.
Great.
Yes. So in addition to that, we also made a lot of changes to the project, including height, the facade, setbacks, and we believe the project is in a lot better form than it was originally, and we believe that we have worked with the council office and with planning to satisfy everybody's.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councilwoman Hutt, do you have any comments?
Sure. Thank you so much. I want to start by thanking the community, including Faye, Ariel, Susan, and Meyer for your advocacy for the best possible development in your community. In my letter, I asked planning to reconsider the determination in the light of the appeals brought forth by the neighbors. Planning, the developer, and reviewing agencies have provided responses to the appeal points. These responses satisfy the concerns raised in the appeals, and I have not found that the appeals merit the denial of the housing project. It's my belief that the project meets the goals of the housing element and that this project will add 12 condo units, including an affordable ownership opportunity. The project addresses a very needed middle-income housing project. My office and the relevant departments believe that this is a great project, and I ask for your concurrence in upholding the decision of the Planning Commission to deny the appeal and uphold the original determination. Thank you,
Great.
colleagues.
Thank you. So the recommendation I'll make based on that and the facts in the case here is to deny the 2 appeals filed by 1, Ariel Mandel and Faye Mandel, and 2, Meyer Schwartzstein and Susan Kahn, and thereby sustain the determination of the Planning Commission and Advisory Agency to approve a vesting tentative tract map for the subdivisions of 2 lots into 12 small lots, with 1 dwelling unit reserved for very low income housing, households for the properties located at 1904 through 1906 South Press Road, subject to modified conditions of approval and adoption of project findings, determine that the proposed project is within the scope of the program approved with a 2021 through 2029 Housing Element Environmental Impact Report, and be certified on November 24th, 2021, and addendums 1 and 2, and the EIR adequately describes the activity for purposes of CEQA, adopt the mitigation monitoring program, and CEQA findings. Let's call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Ms. Hutt.
Yes.
Mr. Nassarian. Absent. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
And Ms. Rahman absent. That's 3 ayes, and that's adopted, sir.
Great, thank you. Thank you so
Mr.
much. Okay, now we're going to
Bloomfield.
turn to items 10, 11,
Mr.
and, yes.
Mr. Bloomfield, my apologies to interrupt you, but for item 8, out of an abundance of caution, we need to request the city attorney to prepare the sign district ordinance. And I want to state that for the record so that the clerk captures it in her committee report.
Okay, do we need to vote on that, or you?
No, that
Just state it for the record.
Just stated, sir.
Thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
that.
And for item 10, sir, this includes the environmental impact report, the errata, the findings, the statement of overriding considerations, a modified mitigation monitoring program, and this is a determination from the Planning Commission. It's a vesting tentative tract map for the merger of 8 lots into one ground lot for residential and commercial condominium purposes, and the project is in CD 14. And it's being, my apologies, it's being appealed by the supporters of the Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, SAFER.
Okay. So they all relate to a project 10, 11, and 12 on 1100 East 5th Street and 506 through 530 South Seton Street in downtown LA. Item, as you mentioned, 10 and 11 are appeals. We're going to take those up first, and depending on the committee's decision on the appeals, we will then take up 12. You've already read them into the record. As you mentioned, 10 is a SAFER appeal, 11 is a SAFER appeal, 12 is the approval. So start with the Planning Department, a very quick presentation, then we'll get to the appellant, the applicant, a public comment. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Honorable Council Members. Kathleen King with the Department of City Planning. The project before you is the 1100 East 5th Street project for the construction of an 8-story mixed-use development. There are 3 items before you today. Item number 10, an appeal of the tract map. Item number 11, an appeal of the entitlements for the density bonus, main conditional use permit, and site plan review. And item number 12, a general plan amendment and a vesting zone and height district change. The Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility filed identical appeals for both the tract and CPC cases, alleging deficiencies in the project's environmental impact report, which staff has fully responded to in the appeal points in the letter dated June 4th, 2025, which has been uploaded to the council files. As a result of the preparation of a health risk assessment and responding to the appeal, a new mitigation measure has been added to the project's mitigation monitoring program, which is captured under erratum number 2. Additionally, the Downtown Community Plan became effective in January 2025, superseding the former Central City North Community Plan and establishing new land use and zoning designations for the project site. As such, the project site is now designated for hybrid industrial land uses, though the zoning regulations are vested under those in effect prior to the community plan update. Therefore, staff recommends that the committee take the following actions and incorporate planning staff's recommendations in the technical modifications submitted. For item number 10, deny in part and improve in part the tract appeal and sustain the approval of the vesting tentative tract map and certification of the EIR with the inclusion of the modified mitigation monitoring program. For item number 11, deny the CPC case appeal and approve the requested entitlements with the modified findings and conditions. And for item number 12, dismiss the general plan amendment as is no longer necessary and approve the vesting zone change and height district change with the modified findings and modified ordinance. That concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, great. The appellant, if you'd come forward, if you could, I know you're appealing 2, if you could appeal them both at the same time. I'm hearing a lot of noise out there, so the quicker we can be, but you have your time. You have up to 6 minutes if you wish.
Good afternoon, honorable committee members. My name is Chase Preciado from the law firm Wiseau Jury, here on behalf of the appellant Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, or SAFER. SAFER is respectfully requesting that the committee grant SAFER's appeal to ensure that the project and its EIR fully comply with CEQA. In the brief time I have, I would like to highlight 3 areas where this EIR is lacking. The first issue is the EIR's failure to adequately assess the increased cancer risk from diesel particulate emissions. The EIR admits that diesel particulate matter could result in health impacts, and that an analysis of those impacts is based on cancer risk and exposure levels. The EIR then adopts a significance threshold of 10 in 1 million for the increased cancer risk. But then the EIR never provides any quantitative analysis that compares the project's impacts to that threshold. In other words, the EIR adopts a significance threshold and then completely omits the analysis needed to evaluate the project's impacts. The only way to quantify the project's cancer risk is by conducting a health risk assessment, which should have been but was not prepared for this project. The EIR should be revised and recirculated with a quantified health risk assessment to ensure that the project's health impacts are properly disclosed. The second issue is mitigation for the project's noise impacts. The EIR found that the project is going to result in significant and unavoidable impacts due to noise and vibration. CEQA does allow the city to approve a project with unavoidable impacts, but first, all feasible mitigation measures must be applied. And that hasn't happened here. The EIR only requires best management practices and a single mitigation measure, temporary sound barriers. The EIR should be revised and recirculated to address additional feasible measures to ensure that noise impacts are mitigated to the extent possible. The last issue I'd like to discuss is the project's cancer risk from indoor emissions of formaldehyde. The EIR contains no discussion or mitigation for indoor air quality impacts. SAFER submitted a comment from a leading indoor air quality expert who found that the increased cancer risk would be significant without further mitigation, such as the use of low or no added formaldehyde wood products. Again, the EIR should be revised and recirculated to properly disclose and mitigate this impact. For those reasons, as well as the additional reasons discussed in SAFER's written comments, SAFER respectfully requests that the committee grant the appeal and send the EIR back to planning staff for revision and recirculation prior to further consideration of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The applicant, come forward. You have 2 items. You have up to 6 minutes. You don't have to use all the time.
Edgar Kaladian, partner at the Maribel Law Firm, here on behalf of the applicant. No new information was presented today based on the administrative record and staff's presentation. There's substantial evidence in the record to support the city's denial of the appeals and certify the EIR approved the entitlements. Out of deference to everyone's time, I'm going to ask our supporters to please stand and express their support so you don't have to call on them.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, members of the council.
I appreciate that. I still want to make sure I legally fulfill the obligation. Anybody here wishing to speak to this item, please come forward now. Seeing no other speakers in front of us. Committee discussion. My recommendation is going to be to deny this appeal. Colleagues, any discussion? Okay. So,
Councilman, for item 10, sorry to interrupt you, it's a deny in part, grant in part, sir.
yes.
Thank you.
You want to read that in, or you want me to go ahead?
No, sir, you can go ahead.
All right.
If you want.
I'm going to be quick. So, deny in part, grant in part the appeal of the decisions of the City Planning Commission to sustain the advisory agency's approval of case number VTT-74549 as recommended by the Planning Department in its communication dated June 4th, 2025, and the attached council file. And second, to find that the City Council has reviewed and considered the information contained in the EIR prepared for this project, which includes the draft EIR number ENV-2016-3727-EIR dated January 24, 2024, the final EIR dated July 2024, and errata dated October 2024 and June 2025, as well as the whole of the administrative record, and certify the following. One, that the 1100 East 5th Street project EIR has been completed in compliance with the California CEQA environmental CEQA. And 2, the 1100 East 5th Street project was presented to the City Council, and the City Council considered the information contained in the final EIR prior to approving the project. And 3, the 1100 East 5th Street project EIR reflects the independent judgment analysis of the lead agency. Adopt the following: the related and prepared 1100 East 5th Street project EIR modified environmental findings. 2, the statement of overriding considerations. And 3, the modified mitigation monitoring program prepared for the 1100 East 5th Street project EIR. 3, to approve the vesting tentative track map stamped September 28, 2016 for the merger of 8 lots into 1 ground lot for residential and commercial condominium purposes, a waiver of deductions, dedications, and a request for non-standard improvements along 5th Street and Seton Street, and a haul route for the export of up to 81,000 cubic yards of soil. And 4, adopt the advisory agency's conditions of approval and modified findings. Okay, if we could call the roll on 10, and then I'll read the recommendations for 11.
Yes, sir. For item 10, Mr. Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Ms. Hutt.
Yes.
Mr. Nasserian absent. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
And Ms. Rahman absent. That's 3 ayes, and that's approved, sir.
Okay, and then on 11, to deny in part, grant in part the appeal of the decisions of the City Planning Commission to sustain the approval of case, I'm not going to read that whole number, as recommended by the Planning Department in its communication dated June 4th, 2025, and attached council file. 2, find based on the independent judgment of the decision maker, after consideration of the whole of the administrative record, the project was assessed in the 1100 East 5th Street project EIR, and pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15162, no subsequent EIR or supplemental EIR is required for approval of the project. 3, to approve a main conditional use permit on the on-site sale and dispensing of a full line of alcoholic beverages for up to 4 establishments. 4, to approve a density bonus compliance review for a housing development project setting aside 11% or 25 units of proposed density for very low income for a period of 55 years and with the following requested incentives and waivers. A, a non-menu incentive to allow a 6% reduction in required amount of open space for the project. B, a non-menu incentive to allow a 10% reduction in the easterly side yard setback for a setback of 10 feet in lieu of the otherwise required 11 feet for the lowest residential level. C, a waiver of development standards to allow a 24% reduction in the southerly rear yard setback for a setback 15 feet 3 inches in lieu of the otherwise required 20 feet at the lowest residential level. 5, approve a site plan review for a project resulting in an increase of 50 or more dwelling units. 6, adopt the attached conditions of approval. And 7, adopt the attached modified findings. If you could call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Blumenfield.
Bloomfield, aye.
Ms. Hutt.
Yes.
Mr. Nasserian absent. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Ms. Rahman absent. And that's 3 ayes, and that's approved, sir.
Okay, and then I think we move straight to 12, and the recommendation for 12, I'm going to say is the recommendation is to approve the following Planning Department recommendations as recommended in its report dated June 4th, 2025, and attached to the council file. 1, find on the independent judgment of the decision maker after consideration of the whole the administrative record, the project was assessed in the 1100 East 5th Street project EIR number environmental 2016-3727 EIR, and pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section 15162, no subsequent or supplemental EIR is required for approval of the project. 2, to dismiss pursuant to Charter section 555 and section 11.5.6 of the LAMC, a general plan amendment to the Central City North Community Plan to change the land use designations for the project site from heavy industrial to regional commercial. 3, to adopt pursuant to LAMC sections 12.32 F and Q, the draft ordinance dated June 6, 2025 for a vesting zone change and height district change, TQC2-2-RIO zone. And 4, adopt the modified findings dated June 4th, 2025 as the findings of council. If you could call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Blumenfield.
Bloomfield, aye.
Ms. Hutt.
Aye.
Mr. Nasserian absent. Mr. Lee.
Aye.
And Ms. Rahman absent. That's 3 ayes, and those actions are approved, sir.
Great. Will you confirm that clears the desk?
It does, sir.
We have general public comment? Okay, is there anyone here for general public comment? Seeing nobody here for general public comment is closed. This meeting is, I would urge anybody who can leave to leave as soon as they can, because there's a good possibility the exits may be closed soon. This meeting is adjourned.